So we're going to go ahead and jump in. I want to make sure that we take advantage of the time we have together. My name is Annette Anderson, Annette Campbell Anderson, and I have been here in this role for about 8 years at Hopkins. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about taking the next step in your career into educational leadership. So a little about me, I actually founded a charter school in Pennsylvania, the first university assisted charter school. But as I just shared, I am a Baltimore City girl. I rep Baltimore City hard. I have 3 kids in Baltimore City schools right now. But I've taught in Montgomery County and I've worked with Prince George's County, so I have a little bit of my history all over the state. So basically, I just wanted to jump into this by talking about what we look for in our candidates. So there are 5 things that we look for. We want you to be a content expert. We want you to leave the program really understanding what it means to be a leader. We also want you to be an advocate of diversity. So I struggle with this because I think of it in more of a social justice vein, but I'll settle for diversity advocate for now. We also know that we're in a 21st century society that is really focused on technology, so being able to apply that in your work and in your praxis is really important. But these 2, I think, are 2 of the more critical ones. Being reflective. So change happens because people are reflective in their work, because people are thinking about how their praxis impacts others in the space of education. And in order to do that, you've got to have evidence. You've got to use evidence-based research to be able to apply the work. And so we're very excited that the programs that we offer really do speak to those 5 strands. So in order to be an effective leader, we say that you have to have the knowledge, the skills, and the dispositions to be able to make sound leadership decisions. And there are lots of ed leadership programs all over the country, here in the state of Maryland, but ours are very unique because we really think about, and you got to hear from one of our alums, Sheree Davis, who actually came to me kind of in tears saying, I don't know what my next step should be. And so it's fascinating for me to hear that story, to see her on her journey, because every year or so we kind of check in and I keep kind of pushing her further and further. So for some people that feel like, well, she's done all this stuff, and now she's back into a school position as an AP, that was by design. And I don't know if she's going to stop by, but she can talk a little bit about that. We really wrestled with that, but she has had so many leadership positions, but I said you've got to have a school-based leadership position on your resume. And so now she's in this role in Baltimore County, and she has been doing a fabulous job. Our programs are broken into face-to-face and online programs. We have a master's degree in administration and supervision. That is a face-to-face program. We also offer online the certificate in admin and supervision, and that's offered both in a face-to-face format as well as the online format. And we also offer the certificate for educational leadership in independent schools. I was just talking about you, Madame. Yes, so before we go on a little bit further, can you come up just a little bit and talk about, I was telling them a little bit about our relationship and about the struggle. So if you want to just spend a minute or 2 just talking about how we got to the place where you made your decision.
So she was the person I was talking to when I said, I don't know if I want to be a principal yet. In her office, in the interview, and I wanted the opportunity to just learn in a Hopkins classroom first. But to back up a little bit, I was at a crossroads in my career. And so in education, you think it's so linear. You do this, then you do this, then you do this. Which is why I like what Career Services is doing here now, which is sort of this design. You sort of design your path. I was doing that before it was a thing. And some people would say, well, you really can't do that until you do this. But my experiences were so peppered, so varied. And I was using them all to be the best where I was, but I was ready to make a move. And I didn't know what to do. I put together roughly a resume, sent it to Dr. Anderson. I want to say that. But
It's fine.
And she looked it over, and I said, if you know of anything, just let me know. I didn't even know what I wanted her to do with it, really. I didn't want her to say, hey, I got this job. Nothing. I just didn't know. And when she looked at it, she said, all you need is one thing on it, and you can go in any direction you want. And as a first-generation college goer, you know, in education, there was no one else for me to send that resume to. I made a lot of professional connections. Once she looked it over, what was shocking to me was, I said, well, when is the deadline to apply? And it was in like 2 days. I was at my kitchen island. But once it happened and I realized that I could take all of those peppered experiences, from opening a school to leading a school that didn't have a principal to doing all these things, you just do what you have to do. You don't realize it can turn into something. And I feel like Hopkins sort of took that from me and morphed it into who I am today. Like, I just went to the dean and said, oh man, I hope I didn't miss, I meant to say this, I meant to say that. And he said, what I like about you is so organic. And it is, but you can come to a really structured place and have them provide that structure for what has been your journey. And, you know, if it's about having the name on your resume and things like that, that's sort of played out now. Because in education, it's really about, can you do the job? Can you really change the trajectory of students' lives? Can you really influence teachers? Can you really lead a school that's underfunded to success? I'm here to say, and I think you've witnessed some of it, that it can be done with the right leader, with the right experience. It's harder. It's a lot more challenging, stressful, but I felt like Hopkins really prepared me for that. I've always kept my hand in other things, meaning other aspects of education. And your experience here will do that. The assignments, I think, sort of push you out into other areas of education that you don't necessarily think are related to getting a degree, but it is. And then when it's time for your field experience, you know, I did my field experience and I was back and forth on which school to do it in. And I'm so glad I picked the school that I did. It was a huge school. It had 2 campuses, 2 buildings. And when I interviewed with the principal and talked about it, he said, well, I'm going to give you the career services building because you've just done X, Y, Z already. I think you can do it. He told me in the end he did it not only because he knew I could do it, because he knew I was getting a great education and that he was confident that a Hopkins grad could carry his other building. And I just thought, oh my goodness. I mean, in your internship, but I was prepared. And so, you know, I always felt like you saw, and to this day, by the way, she is my mentor too. So like I text and call her all the time about things. I don't even know how you find time for us. Everybody in the A&S program goes, Annette Anderson's my mentor. And I'm like, she answers your texts too. How? She's always answering them. But because of that, it has just given me the confidence to do so much more than what you are degreed to do. So you'll get bang for your buck, regardless of whatever the buck is. I know it's, you know, financial aid and all, but I feel like it's well worth it.
Yay.
They have questions.
Okay, I don't know if they, would you like to ask Sheree questions?
I know.
Okay.
Okay, I'll hang right
I'll just, yep, it's good to have you here because I think you can, exactly. But I think it's important for you to hear her perspective, mostly because when you are making a big step like this, you're wondering what is going to set me apart from people who go to other regional institutions. What's going to be what gets me in the door so that I can go into a position of leadership? For a lot of people, that Hopkins name does open the door for them. I have relationships with heads of schools at lots of institutions. Malika Delancey, who just left Park School, for example. No, she's at Park School, right. She's at Park School. She left McDonough. So she's a longtime friend. Nicole Hood, who's over at Bryn Mawr. So I've known a lot of people through the years. And so that network, every once in a while, someone will call and say, Dr. Anderson, can you call? And I will know, and that's all the time. So, you know, Monica Gaines down in Prince George's County, who is the principal of Greenbelt Elementary School, is another pink and green person. Exactly. But, you know, I love her so much. You know, I have to give credit where it's due. But she is she's one of our graduates. And so when she was going into that position, you know, we worked together, and she's gotten her TAG program together. And so it's been great to be a support on both sides. So there are a lot of people who are alum who reach back, who ask me for support, who ask me and if I can do it. I feel like this is my call, right? It's my call to make you the best that you can be so that when you go out into that world, there are a lot of people from Howard County that I taught who are now in AP positions in the county. So trust me when I say our graduates come from everywhere. We have graduates in Moscow, Maine, Mexico, doing this work of leadership. And so for me, it is a blessing. It's a gift because you know that you are putting the right people in front of our students across the world, across the globe, to be able to lead them with effectiveness. So there are lots of positions that an administration and supervision program can help to prepare you for, including head of school in an independent school. And I find that a lot of times the candidates who come to us for independent school leadership, they are often looking to distinguish themselves from people who have traditionally just gone through nepotism or they knew someone. That happens a lot. And so because so many heads of schools and independent schools are retiring at a very rapid rate, the opportunities really just open up. So, you know, our program really helps to put those candidates front-facing in front of boards. But we want to make sure you have the information about governance, information about dealing with fundraising, information about all the kinds of working with a varied population that you're going to need because our independent schools are changing a lot as well. So if you want to be a principal, assistant principal, a department leader, content specialist, a member of your school's ILT, or take on another district-wide leadership role in central office, this is the place for you. A lot of people question whether or not a Hopkins degree is something that they can aspire to. Yes, it is, because even though our program has an international reputation for rigor, it is not that it's unachievable. We expect you to meet us with your experiences and your education and your will to do the work, to lift the work for our students. We find that a lot of our graduates get so much out of building networks with their colleagues, and those networks last long after you graduate and across districts and across the profession. So it may seem like our price point is a little bit higher than going to a cohort-based program, but we're pretty competitive when you look at us with other universities of the same national stature. And our JHU credential really does put you ahead of the pack. I mean, there's from time to time we get calls from people who've gone on to get superintendent positions who've come through our program that we have to certify that they're our graduates. So it's very, very common that people go on, and once they get out there and realize that they really can do this, we don't just want to set you up to get through the coursework. This is about setting you up for your next path, because for me, I want to make sure that all of you are in positions where you can affect change. Networks. I talked about this briefly. In our alumni surveys, 90% of our graduates, and I just looked at the last one, 90% said that they felt that the networks that they built was very helpful for them to get to the next place in their career. So these networks that you'll build as you're part of our program are absolutely essential to your success down the road. And then diversity. The School of Education, I will say, it's just really one of the hallmarks of our existence, that we really value diversity. We know that diversity is where we really have a lot to do, work to do as a society in our schools. And so we have to reflect that back in our programming as well. And so we really do look to make sure that diversity is a hallmark of everything that we do. Okay, so just a little bit of a basic background about our program. So if you have a bachelor's degree and you're a public school teacher, we have a 39-credit face-to-face master's degree in administration and supervision for you. You would have up to 5 years to finish this master's program, but many people complete it within 2 or 3 years. It depends on how quickly you want to go through the program. Our program is not cohort-based, which makes us very different from other regional institutions, so it's flexible. You can go through as many courses or as few courses as you need to at a time to do this at your own pace. In addition to our traditional face-to-face programs, we offer the online programs for the traditional certificate And then we also have a partnership with TFA for those students who are in the TFA Master's Program, that they can take some of our courses at the same time. If you're in one of our certificate programs, which are 6 courses, you have up to 3 years to complete all the certificate programs, but people frequently complete that in 3 semesters instead of 3 years. And then we're working to build out an online version for the independent school certificate program, and we think we'll be ready to launch that in fall of 2020. Okay, so here's some logistics about the program. Basically, our programs are offered in both online and face-to-face formats, spring, summer, and fall. Our independent school leadership programs are offered face-to-face here in Columbia. Our online programs usually have 2 starts a semester, a regular start and a late start. So we'll offer, for example, I'm just finishing up my effective leadership course that started in August, and then the October 21st class will start for the second late start. So they're in 8-week segments. The only class that you cannot take in the summer is the internship if you're in the ANS certificate program, and that's because what I have found is I ran it like 2 summers, and I was really not pleased with the outcome because people were trying to really squeeze that summer school experience into this capstone internship, and I didn't feel like it was capturing the level of rigor that I think that our graduates really need to represent the work that we're doing here. So we don't offer that in the summer. But you can take up to 2 courses per semester. So if you're taking an online class, you could take an August start or an October start. We've had some really motivated students take 2 August classes and an October start to get 3 because they're trying to finish quickly. But you don't have to work yourself up to try to get through this quickly. I would advise that you take 1 course per semester. If you have a heavy schedule, if you're in something like if you're the drama director, if you're the track coach, then I would say that you need to make sure that your time allows you to be able to do more than 1 class at a time. And I think that if you're in the ANS program, you need to also talk to your principal or your assistant principal, whoever's going to be your mentor in your internship, so that they can commit to giving you oversight during the last semester of your work. And that internship is a 6-month-long internship. So it's an entire semester, whether it's online or face-to-face, because I really do want you to have the time to get your hours. We require you to have 200 hours for your internship, and it's very rigorous. So we want to make sure that you can do that and focus on that and be successful. And then the face-to-face candidates participate in an internship orientation, either here at Columbia, or we also offer it in Baltimore, where we talk about what the internship experience will look like at the end of the certificate or the master's program. Okay. So there's 2 pathways, as I said. You can go in the online program or the face-to-face program, and it's offered to all of the admin and supervision candidates who already have a master's degree in another area. If you do not, then you would apply for the master's degree in administration and supervision. The courses are available in our course catalog online, and as I said earlier, it's a very flexible pacing to accommodate our students' lives. And then the classes are taught both, if they're face-to-face, they're taught here in Columbia as well as at the Homewood campus in Baltimore. Do we have anyone here from Teach for America? Then I won't go into that program. But this is what the classes look like in our 6-course certificate program. So typically, whether you're face-to-face or online, each semester you would choose 1 or 2 of these courses. I typically advise people to start with effective leadership and organization and administration of schools, but you don't have to start with those. Supervision and professional development, where you learn how to do observations and you think through the process of giving feedback to your peers and colleagues. And then curriculum theory, which is a class that currently we have Sheree teaching, which is a class about how curriculum really impacts the work and the success of students in the classroom. And then you take school law, but you can take that whenever you feel you need that, but that's an up-to-date course that is taught by education attorneys. So it's a very rigorous course. And we, sometimes people other than in other schools have people besides lawyers teach it, but That's how I was taught, and that's how we do it. So then finally, the internship in administration and supervision is the semester-long capstone to the program. Sheree?
I could say the first course,
Oh.
the one, effective leadership
Mhm.
and organization administration of schools, those really set the
They do.
foundation. And those are the courses that I sat in that made me go back and say, okay.
Yeah, yes.
Those are great.
And effective leadership really, there's a case study in this course that requires you to look at equity in schools and to think about how you as a principal would address the demographic shifts that we're seeing happen in a school from a lens of equity. In the organization and administration course, you're putting together an action plan to address the mission and vision of a school. So it's where you really think about, why does this school exist? Who does it serve? Who are our partners? What are the outcomes that we expect? So you can finish, people ask me frequently if it's possible to finish the A&S program in a year, and the short answer is yes, depending on when you start. So you can. So here is a sample sequence. For example, if you start the program in the spring, you could take effective leadership in organization and administration of schools in the spring, and then over the summer, you would take supervision and professional development and school law, and then in the fall, you take your final class, curriculum theory, and your internship, and you would be done. And is that how you did it, Sheree?
That's exactly how I did
Yeah.
it. So in 1 year, you're done.
Yes.
So starting in the summer,
Yep.
it just puts you ahead.
It does.
And you're primed at hiring season.
Mhm.
So when you're finishing up is when people are looking. So you're not finishing at an awkward time when districts are hiring.
So if you're planning to try to do it in 1 year, this is a sequence that I recommend. So to start either in the spring or the summer, if you want to do it in 1 year, is really optimal. If you start in the fall, you will have to wait until the next fall to take the internship. So that's something to think about. Our courses online are about 8 weeks, and they're facilitated on a weekly cycle. They're very interactive. You typically have about 20 students in each online class, and it's a balance of both whole group, team, and individual activities and assignments. Some people choose to take face-to-face classes and online classes together. You're welcome to do that if that fits your fancy, so that you can get through the program more quickly. It does require a degree of comfort with technology, but it's nothing like, if you can get on Facebook, you can do this. So it's just, we use Blackboard, and many of you use a program similar to that in your workplace to deliver content for students. So it's very similar to that. This is a program plan from our master's degree. This is if you're planning to go through our 39 credit course. And as you can see, it just requires those 6 courses that I talked about earlier, as well as a couple of classes that are precursor requirements, such as action research and advanced instructional strategies. And we have fabulous a couple retired superintendents and associate superintendents for Baltimore City who actually teach this class that I love. And then we have some other courses in ed policy, diversity, and school and family collaboration. So family engagement is also a really key part of this program, because we feel like being able to connect with families and keep them engaged in the work in the school is really important. And we want to make sure that our candidates understand the importance of that. Any questions so far?
We have 2 questions online.
Okay.
If you're ready.
I'll go through this and then I'll finish, and then we can just do all the questions at one time. Might be easier. Okay. The internship. So let me talk a little bit about the internship, because we're almost done. And then I'll open it up to all your questions. So the program for the internship is for the Admin and Supervision Certificate Program and the 39 credit master's program in Admin and Supervision. We do not have an internship right now for the Independent School Leadership Program. So the internship is the capstone of your sequence. It's a semester-long internship that you will work with your mentor to plan out. So some people will focus on working with the PTA. Some will focus on Title I implementation. Some will focus on the ESSA, or working with ESSA and integrating differentiation into their classrooms. So you will work on like typically a key area, but not always. So you will plan this out with your supervisor that we send you from Hopkins, as well as your site-based mentor. We assign the site supervisor. Again, these are people with a lot of experience, and both your site supervisor and the mentor from your school have to successfully evaluate you in order to complete the program requirements. Now, every now and again, I get pulled in if a student is not being successful. I have gone out to a couple of schools to have to meet with the site supervisor and the mentor to help that student to get back on track if they're not. But by and large, most of our students, once they get to that point, they really understand what's important for them to successfully complete the program. So I don't have to do that maybe once a year, but usually not more than that. And then our program is aligned with the PCEL standards. That's important. Those new PCEL standards really call for a lot of actionable items. And so we're really thrilled to have the entire program aligned with that. So just again, talking a little bit about the assessments for the internship, some of the things that you have to do for the internship are to think about who you are. Talked about that at the top of the presentation. Talked about core beliefs being really central to who you are and your ability to affect change. As I said earlier, you have a 200-hour requirement for our internship where you will collect artifacts to substantiate the work that you're doing in your school. You do a clinical supervision reflection that mirrors one that you do in the supervision and PD course. And then you'll have a mentor assessment with where your mentor lays out your strengths and some of the areas of opportunity. You do a portfolio to organize this so that we're helping to prepare you when you go into the job market to talk to future employers about your role and in your capacity to lead in that space. And then finally, you do a reflection paper on your internship portfolio. This is the course sequence for independent schools. As I said, there are 5 courses that we feel are really important in the independent school space. And it ranges the gamut from leadership in curriculum, instruction, and assessment in independent schools to supervision and PD in independent schools, looking at public relations and marketing for independent schools, governance, and then finance. So that's very different than the public school strand. But it covers the same level of rigor for independent schools, because we know that if you're going into those roles, typically the people have not had exposure to things like looking at the school budgets, thinking about forecasting, 5-year forecasts. So we look at those in the independent school leadership realm. You'll work with your head of school or your department chair to build out a plan and then to talk about how the school should be thinking about its next generation of students, where it will attract students from, how they will maintain and retain, the teachers, and look at increasing student populations and any kind of growth that the schools are expecting. Okay, and finally, here's where Haisha did her presentation a little bit about where you can go for some assistance if you need it. The tuition for 2019-2020 is $793 for face-to-face per credit, and then for online, the tuition is $840 per credit. You can get tuition reimbursement if your district office will supply that. But to get more information about that, here is the email and the phone number of our financial aid office. But they're here today, so you can certainly go to 216 to talk to them. And finally, we have a rolling admissions platform now. We realize that for people who are going into school leadership, that it helps us to not just have a fall or a spring deadline. So now we've just removed that, and it's more of a rolling, because we offer the classes in the spring start, for example, with an early regular start and then the mid-semester late start. So we do have rolling admissions. You can apply, though, if you're looking for financial aid by these deadlines to get information to get support for your studies. So that's that. If you have questions, my email is here. My email, if you can't read it in blue, is annette.anderson@jhu.edu. You can follow me on Twitter at ImpactGrader. Sheree and I are always posting amazing things on Twitter. We follow each other all the time. The person who's not here today, who's probably the most important person to all of this, the person who makes all of this go for me, is Liesl McNeil. Liesl is my right hand. She's my left hand. She's my foot. Liesl does amazing work. And so when you apply to this program, the person that you'll talk to most if you have questions is Liesl. And she's the hardest working person that I know. And I just appreciate her work because she really does hold up the admin and supervision program in her arms. And it's a heavy lift, so I appreciate her. So that's all I have to say for today. I will now open to our 2 online questions first, and then any questions we have from the audience.
Okay, great. We have 2 questions regarding the graduate certificate in administration and supervision.
Sure.
The first one is, can you start the program in the spring?
Yes, absolutely. You can start whenever you want. So that's the beauty of our program. We actually have 5 starts. Actually, it's 6. We have 6 starts. So you can start the next session, which will start October 21st, if like you had already gone through all of your paperwork and you've had your interview with me, because I interview every single candidate. And so if you've done that, you absolutely would be welcome to start in this next session that starts in October. Then we have another session that will start in January. Then we have another session that will start in March. Then we have another session that will start in May. And then another session will start in July. And then we'll start the last session in August. So we run actually 6 sessions of the year because our candidates have shown us that they need that flexibility. You're not going to have that if you go through a cohort program where you're frequently, having to wait for the class to be offered.
Okay, the next part of the question is, can you be exempt from courses based on your previous degree? I studied education policy and social analysis and did the School Law Institute at Teachers College, Columbia.
That's lovely. Our program is different than those, and so we don't accept those credits. So that's the short answer, unfortunately, which is that our course is really tailored because it's up to date. We're constantly updating our courses and making sure the content is fresh because of the environment in which our school environment and reform expects our graduates to be able to ascend. So we know that we have to constantly engage the current reform efforts, and so we do not accept courses from other programs, especially especially in that 6-course certificate program because it's such a rapid program. If you're a master's program candidate with the 13 courses, then I do a transcript analysis to see if there's a match in the 13-course master's program. But for that certificate program, because that's such a rapid program, we do not.
And this may be a broad financial question for financial aid, but the question is, are there scholarships available?
There are scholarships available. That's why the dates of this, the dates for the financial aid deadlines are important to note. So November 1st is the deadline for this next spring semester. So if you're interested in scholarships or any other financial aid, yes, you want to make sure that you get your financial aid application in by then.
That's all the questions we have online.
Great. Those were really good questions, though, and I thank you for asking those. Yes, ma'am.
Are all this program 8 weeks?
All the online programs are 8 weeks. The face-to-face programs are a traditional 16-week semester. So the online, and that should show you the level of rigor. If you're going to go to the online program, you're going to have to be able to hang with an 8-week program that is much more quick, but the assignments are going to be just as rigorous as they would be if they were spread out in the 16-week course. Yes.
You said that you don't have the internship available for independent school
Yes,
program.
we do not yet.
Is there another requirement?
There is not. There's just the 5 classes right now. I think I've really struggled with what I see. So I will be honest and say that a lot of people that come into, just anecdotally, that come to the independent school leadership program, they're often female and they're often people of color, right? Those are not the people who traditionally run independent schools. And so what I have learned is that they are looking for that next leg up that's going to open the door and break the glass ceiling for them, which is why I'm starting to think that we should add another class for the independent schools. Similar to the internship, maybe not exactly the same, but I do think that it would offer for those students something additional to get them the exposure. They need the exposure to be able to take that next step. Because in a place like Park School, now if you know Malika, right, you have access to some people who are already in leadership, but for some people who don't have those networks and who work through NAIS to go to the People of Color Conference, for example, they're still trying to figure out and find their way. And so we find that our program provides that stopgap for them to be able to make that next leap. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, what is the typical workload for a semester course face-to-face?
Okay, well, we have a graduate who can answer that question.
So it depends on the course, because the work, like, so when you're assigned something and you're already doing the work, and that's what I was trying to say a little bit earlier, you just meet, you do what the requirements of the assignment are. But, I mean, it can be rigorous, you know, so the readings, you know, you get them done. But really, it's about when you'll actually get to do the work. If you are doing an assignment, and this is how I used to look at it, which is why I help you. If I had an assignment, I read all the assignments before the class started. I looked at the work I was currently doing. Went to principals, people I worked with, because I worked across the country at that time. I said to them, you know, what is it that your school might need? Here's a project that I'm doing. Here's something I'd like to do to improve your school, and here's what I would need the requirements to do it. The only reason I say that is it makes the workload a little different. If you are currently living out education in any way, practice in any way, try and really align it to the assignments that you're being given, so that the workload, it fits into what you're doing. But it's rigorous. The school law course for me was the challenge. The law courses, it was a challenge. You know it's taught by a lawyer. I'm glad it was taught by a lawyer. But the reading of the cases.
And it's updated every semester.
Yes, so it's
Because,
not like.
and this is why I said we can't accept some courses that you might have taken in another program 3 or 4 years ago, because school law has changed so much in the last 3 or 4 years that we have to constantly update that.
So,
Cases.
yeah, so in terms of, my mom's a law professor, so
Oh
I
my
think I can handle that.
goodness.
But in terms of like, I'm trying to figure out if I can handle the workload with my job. So
Yes.
in terms of like the amount
Yes.
of reading and the amount of assignments.
They don't
Yes.
spend a lot of time
Okay.
having you read things.
And
Well,
so-
you do, but you know what? But let me say this. But I also, like I said, I go through those courses because for me, I'm always thinking about where you're going to be sitting, right? So, you know, we just did the effective leadership course revision because I felt like the readings like there's some readings that I think, okay, these are foundational. You need to know this to be an effective leader. Then there are other things that I feel like in 2019, you also need to be thinking about this. So I read constantly because I'm constantly thinking about that, and I want to know what you think about it, right? So I think that, yes, you can get through the coursework. Obviously, if people didn't, that's why people take one class a semester or sometimes two. It depends on what is going on. Now, sometimes if you are mom to a new baby, you're just getting married, then taking 2 classes a semester, this might not be the time for that. However, if you're at a different place where you just sent all your kids off to school and you have an empty nest and now you're ready to tackle it because you've made your kids the priority for the last 20 years and now you're ready to do you, then you can dive in. So I do think but the program is only for people who are practitioners. We do not let people into this program who are not active practitioners. So everybody they're similar to you. And you'll find that, especially the exchanges that happen in the blogs and online and in the classes, that's where you're really building up your network, as I talked about earlier, and everybody's going through it at the same time. So is it doable? Absolutely.
I was on airplanes.
Yeah.
In my job, I was on the road a year. I worked in almost 18 different states.
Yeah.
I was out in the field 60-plus days during the entire program of the year, flying and training and working in schools, and I did it. I did my internship. I set the days, and I showed up at started early, didn't I?
Yeah. Yeah.
I started because there was a little gap in between
Yeah.
when I could start my internship. I started volunteering and going into school.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can do it.
So then a class would generally meet once a week?
The face-to-face class, no, the face-to-face classes meet once a week. The online classes, they're somewhat asynchronous. So you will get experiences that are synchronous, where your instructor will bring everyone together on a Zoom or an Adobe chat. But you have the assignment due dates are built into the syllabus, and so you'll do those assignments on Blackboard, or you'll do those assignments and then upload them. So it's kind of like a both and.
So then, can you just clarify for the masters in admin and supervision, is that a blend of online and face-to-face, or all the classes are face-to-face?
It depends on what you choose.
But online is.
But the master's program is not all offered online,
Right,
but you can choose.
but some of them are.
But you can choose the ones that are. Yes.
That's
One
much
course
more feasible.
online.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I took curriculum theory and development online.
Mhm.
It's so awkward on the teacher, but I took that online, and I'm glad I did because of what it was. Once you do your readings and see exactly what the assignments are, you're off and practicing. And as a professor now, I just sort of facilitate the discussions, obviously aligned to the standards. So you can pick. So that course was a good one. I wouldn't do school law. I don't even know what it's
Oh, no.
It is.
But
It is. Yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah.
curriculum
But
theory-
people survive school law online. They
Really?
do. They do.
Okay.
They thrive. They do well. Yes, they do. All right. Any final questions? Oh,
Yeah, two more online.
okay.
The first one is financial aid available for online certificate programs.
Yes, if you take 2 classes per semester, you are eligible for school loans. That's as much as I know about it. I would advise you to also reach out to the financial aid office to find out about scholarships and grants.
And the second one is, when will the start date for the online certificate program for independent school leadership be finalized?
I think, well, we're still working that out. We said right now that it's fall of 2020. So we're working on that.
So we have
And you have, yes.
I just would like to know how is internship looks like if you're an active educator in your classroom.
So you will sit down with your principal or whoever you choose to be your mentor. You meet with the site supervisor that we select and send. The 3 of you will get together and collaborate about what the plan is for the semester, what kinds of activities you will complete in order to do the 200 hours, collect the artifacts. So you might go to a PTA meeting, you might lead. So it's broken up into observation hours and active hours, right? So observation hours are things like attending a school board meeting, but active hours might be participating in the school board meeting or leading the PTA meeting. So you have to collect artifacts like agendas or handouts and upload those to document your experience. And so you work through that, and then you do some reflection assignments as well along the way to make sure that you're meeting those touchstones that are in the PSEL standards. Is that answers you? Yes. Tanya, do you have another? Okay. All right. All right, so I feel like I've tried to answer most of your questions. I'm going to hang out for a few minutes. If anybody has any final questions, you can see Sheree, our superstar. She's our exhibit A of like what happens when you come through this program. You become a rock star. So we just want to thank you for your time on a Saturday morning early, for coming in and hanging out with us. And if you have any other questions, remember that you can either talk to Liesl, you can call me. My cell number is 410-978-8198. I'm happy to talk to anybody on the phone or by text. Again, that's 410-978-8198. So please contact me if you have any questions. If you think of something later, I'm available. Thank you.
Yeah.